the introduction. I would be handling, I'm waiting for Sage to just come up with the slide, but yeah, I'll be handling the topic, the A to Z. Okay, yeah, sure. Thank you, Sage. So basically, I'll be discussing the A to Z of master's application process. And yeah, so irrespective of whatever school you're seeking to apply to, be it Cambridge, Oxford, Erasmus, Columbia, whatsoever school, as the case may be, I think there is a systemic application process you'd have to go through, and there are factors that you're actually going to have to consider when making such applications. So I would quickly run through the slides. Trust me, it's nothing serious, just like 2 to 3 slides thereabout, but just to give an overview of what it's about. And I think, apologies, topic I'm asked to discuss really tries like capture everything. And I think it's going to be even beyond 20 minutes, but trust me, I'll try to shorten it in 10, 15 minutes. Knowing that Sage, Destiny, and every other person will still have the opportunity to actually get us through various intricate details that will be required when making your applications. Okay, so I'll move to the next slide. Okay, so I must give an important caveat at this point that there are various application requirements for various schools. So it's really not a one cap fits all presentation, or how will I call it, application process that goes for everyone. So there are distinct requirements for distinct application processes. And I also have to give an important caveat that I am still trying to figure out life myself. So forgive me if I'll make certain, omissions, as the case may be. I'm still a young man myself trying to understand what life has to offer. So I'm sure with the joint effort of everyone here, I'll be able to give my little insight as to making a very distinctive application that makes you stand out and getting into the schools you want in pursuit of whatever career path you have ahead of you. So yeah, I'll go right into the A to Z of the application process on the next slide. So basically, when making applications, the very first thing you have to consider would be understanding why you actually want to pursue a master's degree. Because some people want it just for the additional degree, some people want it to expand their network portfolio, and the popular reason is to jackpot and leave Nigeria, as the case may be, and some people want it for the advancement of their career. But I would like to make you understand that whatever your reasons are at this point in time, your reasons are valid, whether it be to jackpot, to get just another degree, because yeah, it's the next thing for me to do on the course of my career. Whatever reason it is, trust me, they're valid, and you might want it to just advance your career. You might want it for a promotion at work and everything. So understanding the essence of or the major reason why you're actually seeking to pursue a master's degree is relevant in making your application, because you find out that some people would necessarily just making application, and some people actually find it difficult making applications because they are not clear as to what they are seeking to pursue. If you want to jackpot because Nigeria is not working for you, sure, it's a valid reason. And if it's really working for you, but you don't want it for an advancement, trust me, it works perfectly fine. So having understood the essence of actually pursuing a master's degree, the next step would be actually now getting into the real application process. Now, you cannot, Sage, I think that would be number 2 now. So you cannot necessarily make an application without having understood or carried out the proper research into the entire master's application, or for example, the school you're seeking to apply to. Sage, I think you can put up the next point. I don't know if you can hear me, Sage.
I can hear you. It seems maybe having some network issues too.
Oh, okay, no problem. So the next step would be to actually conduct your proper research into the kind of school you want to go and the particular program you're actually interested in. I think we lost it there. Okay, so I'll just continue without the slides. I think when Sage comes in, it's definitely going to come up. So the next thing will be to actually conduct your proper research into the program you're applying to. And I think it's really important to state at this point that Harvard might necessarily not offer the course or the program you want. Cambridge might necessarily not offer the program you want. Yale might necessarily not offer the program you want. And you might find out that the University of Sussex or Manchester or Columbia Law School is actually offering the particular program you're interested in. And it's always good not to have, a fixated mind on what program particular you're interested in. So once you have a career plan or you think you have an interest in something, it's always nice to like have like a pool of programs that you think would best fit into what it is you're seeking to pursue. And understanding this best, you're able to now streamline it into the particular school or the particular programs that actually would offer this. For example, I'll give you the typical example of Cambridge. Cambridge has the regular, sorry, not the regular, but Cambridge has the LLM program and also has the MCL program. They are two related but distinct programs offered by the same institution. However, understanding the course and the program and what actually goes on the course of the program would actually guide you in making it an informed decision. The LLM, for example, in Cambridge admits close about 180, 190 students, while the MCL just takes in 25 every year. Now, the MCL course or the MCL program is corporate law oriented. So basically, you're dealing with everything corporate law. You don't have the opportunity to go into human rights or other kind of fields, as the case may be. So you knowing that, okay, yes, you might be interested in corporate law and that fits your career plan or career path, as the case may be, and the MCL might work perfectly for you. And if you're interested in carrying out, a research-based paper, you want to like still, you're not really sure of what you want, but you want to just go into the LLM and then pick from various models, the LLM will definitely be best fit. So this essentially depicts the requirements or the necessity for carrying out a proper research into the program that matches your interest. Now, like you can see, you outline the possible programs that matches your interest, you outline the possible schools. And now the next thing to do is to actually understand the necessary requirements for gaining admissions and also securing scholarships. And you also need to particularly examine your chances of actually getting into such programs, which obviously would categorize your research into the schools as the case may be and seeing the best fit for you. So some schools will naturally tell you require an IELTS grade of 8.0, you require IELTS of 6.5, be it Canada, the UK, anywhere you're trying to get into. So there is always a need to like carry out your proper research. And this research should not start, 2 weeks into submission or 2 weeks into the deadline. So and I know the deadline is approaching for like the next intake for some schools that's actually admit on an annual basis. However, for some schools that admit at intervals, you can actually still meet up with the time in carrying out this research to understanding that the program and the school you're actually seeking to apply would actually match your career interest or your career path. And it's understandable not even know what your career path lies or is currently structured with at the moment. It's totally understandable, but you want a master's degree, you're still trying to explore different parts. There are other options and there are the LLM program, different programs that could match your interest. And it's also important to know that I have friends who have delved from the regular law path into other fields like development studies and every other thing that actually matches their interest. So you don't have to like be bound by the fact that you're a lawyer. The next part for you is supposed to be the LLM, so to speak. So you need to carry out your proper research, examine what it is that you really want to do and why you really want this master's. And I think you have covered that part very well. The next thing will now be to comment, starting your application proper. Generally, you're supposed to have a personal statement, and the personal statement is essentially an opportunity to sell the best version of yourself. You're not going to be at the admissions committee when they're making the decision to actually admit you or throw out your application. You have more than 8 billion people living in the world now, and you should naturally think that at least on an average, 80,000 people will be applying to a particular school at a particular point in time, and you are just one out of let me say the 80,000, 100,000 people. So what would make you different from these millions or thousands of other people? So you're not going to be in the room, definitely. And this personal statement presents the only opportunity for you to sell yourself to the graduate admissions committee. And fortunately, I've been able to like review a few personal statements. I'm still young, by the way, but I've been able to review a few personal statements that from the very first paragraph, I'm bored already. Like, I'm just like, I need more. Like, it's so even if it's not like, I know we're all on the same part, or we are at part right now, like, trying to still figure out life, but there are some things that you'd find out, you go through and you're like, naturally, I'm bored already. So you can imagine when professors or, the high and mighty are trying to read through your application and they're not even convinced from the very first line, so to speak. It gets difficult to, pick you into the field that would actually be admitted. So naturally, you should always try to sell the very best version of yourself through your personal statement. Now, you ensure you also get your reference. Now, this is a major part. I would not naturally not be applying to Cambridge or Harvard in 2 weeks time, and then I'm reaching out to my lecturer like 2 days before the deadline and asking for references. Now, except the person really loves me so much, would they be able to provide me that kind of reference in such a short span? So making your application also requires that you've spaced out the necessary requirements and you try to like reach out to your professors, your lecturers ahead of time, be it your colleagues at work or whoever it is that is even giving you this reference. And you should also note that the strength of your reference will also plays a major part in the decision-making process. I, for example, got my reference from my lecturers back in school, back during my undergraduate days, because they taught me for 5 years. They were able to attest to my academic capabilities and all of that. And I also got from my supervisor at the office, who made through transactions and all of that. So the strength of your application, with your reference, also will play a major part in decision-making process. And trust me, it's also necessary that I think I should also state that I think due to the nature of the way this short session is planned, there will be questions, opportunities for questions. So I'll be able to take most of those questions at the end of the session because I can see that they have some questions already. But let me just run through this so I don't go out of time. Now, you also need your IELTS, your GRE, your registration through the LSAC, your international passport. So planning your master's also comes down to all those points. Because for me, for example, being a lawyer, I needed my IELTS to get into Cambridge and not the GRE. But for engineering students, and I think some economists, you require your GRE. And it is rather unfortunate that some people actually start planning out their masters without even having an international passport. So these are some of the gaps, these are some of the gaps that should be covered in point number 2, carrying out your research, understanding what it is that is required to actually make these applications. And I think going straight into number 4, there is going to be a session on writing a personal statement, but I'm just going to give you like a short basis of how I went about my personal statement, for example, and trying to structure it. So like I told you, you're trying to get the attention of your reader or the admissions committee. You're not just writing a statement. Try to like capture their get the attention. They're going to be faced with thousands of applications. So what would make yours distinct? Now, I would naturally start by explaining how the program I'm going in for would match or fit a developmental goal, or is actually trying to solve a particular problem. Basically, I'm on the Master of Corporate Law program, and interestingly, it's difficult how most people, from the law school time, would say, oh, corporate law is boring, it's complex. But I see corporate law in everything I do at every point of my life. So every day I live, I breathe corporate law. I see corporate law in everything that happens around me. And I'm able to connect it with the fact that corporations are tied to the end goal development of any nation or any economy. So next thing, you're trying to, having given just a brief introduction as to why you're really passionate about whatever program it is you're going in for. Next step is to try and tell a story about yourself. Basically, your passion has drove you to actually, take out your undergraduate degree in this particular program where you are able to, here you explored certain courses like commercial transaction. This is just from the law perspective, commercial transaction, jurisprudence, that you just give an highlight. Now, you might have been lucky to secure certain internships during the course of your undergraduate degree. You can put up this as well, because definitely your passion informed your decision to actually carry out internship or undertake internship programs with some of the top law firms, the top corporates. And necessarily, even if you don't have your internship, as the case may be, there's still better ways to actually sell out yourself. And you also would like to bring in a bit of your thesis to show that you have the ability to carry out independent research, thought-provoking, topics and all of that, to show that you can have an independent thought and independent mind of yourself. You're able to link this into some of your extracurriculars, your current work experience. And for master's application, unfortunately, most people feel my personal statement is supposed to be me talking about the challenges that happens with Nigeria, as the case may be, but it's also the best opportunity to give the graduate committee an impression as to how you've been able, in your own little way, on your little capacity, to add to whatever problems you have in Nigeria or whatever part of the country or whatever part of the world you might be. So talk about briefly your work experience. Basically, I've been able to advise on social transaction that basically impacts on the benefit of corporations to the long-term goal of any nation or any economy, as case may be. Talk about your volunteering experiences. And now another important part is to bring all of this, your introduction, your undergraduate degree, your career, your work experience, bring it into the institution you're applying to. So basically, I applied to the University of Cambridge and to the MCL program particularly, understanding that the MCL provided a rare opportunity to connect law, economics, policy, and development. And I felt, as at the time I was applying, that Cambridge offered the best opportunity for me to actually ensure that this actually happens. And these were some of the reasons why, I highlighted, and because of my personal statement as to why I was applying, connecting it with my short, medium, and long-term goal as to what it is I intend to do with the Master of Corporate Law program at the end of my, degree at the University of Cambridge. So basically, like, the A to Z of the master's application is starting by understanding what it is you want, conduct your proper research, commence your application, and commence your application as timely as possible, or as timely as possible. So you don't start your application 2-3 days or 2 weeks into the deadline, so to speak, and try to always sell the best version of yourself, structure your personal statement, ensure you have, like, a standard CV to back this up, carry out the research. If you need the IELTS, the GRE, your passport, and every other thing that might be required for such an application. So I would definitely be available at the end of the session to answer whatever questions. So I think every other person that has something to say can definitely come up with theirs. Just to end my presentation, getting into Cambridge was not just a factor of myself. In life, my mentors have told me there are many things that would happen: luck, hard work, and chance happiness to everything. I would naturally, yes, I could be confident in myself, but naturally, I feel like the God factor also comes into play. So aside putting in the work, carrying out the research, grace actually also matters. So if you're Christian, if you're Muslim, and whatever you worship, just hold on strong to it, because there are lots of people trying to get into the schools you're trying to get into, and trying to be one of them is not just hard work, as the case may be, but the grace factor. So I will stop at this point and hopefully have questions at the end of the session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dapo. It was very insightful listening to your session, and I'm sure like everyone has taken away stuff from it. As as mentioned in the chat, we'll be sharing the presentation slides after this session, And I can also see Fikaya already answering some questions. Our lovely panelists. Thank you so much. So next we'll be having Motunrayo Ajia, and I'll briefly introduce her before she starts her session. So Motunrayo is an engineer and consultant currently studying for an MSc in energy systems at the University of Oxford. She is passionate about developing sustainable policies and projects to develop Africa's energy systems. Prior to Oxford, she worked as an associate at the Boston Consulting Group in Lagos, where she analyzed and delivered projects in different sectors, including renewable energy, healthcare, corporate banking, and telecommunications. Thank you, Motunrayo, for joining us today. And yeah, you have the floor.
Hi everyone. Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for the intro. I've sent my slides to Sean, so he could put it up now. Hopefully.
There you go. Can you see it now, Mutu?
Yes, I can. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
So today I'll be taking you through the things I know about getting a scholarship, I guess. I think so the reason why I feel like I might be great at doing this is because I did get 2 scholarships to both Cambridge and Oxford. So I think I have some hacks, some sort of tips to give. And so I guess we could dive right in. So the first thing I would be talking about is really like a roadmap to getting funding for graduate school. The way I think about things is always if I did so well in school, I did not want to pay for my master's. So I was never ever going to pay by myself out of pocket. So it was a very intentional thing for me to get a scholarship. And so I think the first thing is you need to want a scholarship. And I think everyone, most of us will, just because it's also freaking expensive to get into the schools that we want to. And I'm pretty sure the caliber of people here, the type of schools you want to get to are the top schools. And I have I have good news for you, because in the top schools, they have the most endowments. So you're more likely to get a scholarship. Sure, it's fine. I'm not reading the slides yet. So you can put it on slide 2. It's fine. Okay, so you're more likely to get a scholarship in these top schools than in others. Some people may beg to differ, but that has always been my thought. And so the first thing I will say is that have a good story. So the art of storytelling is one of the most useful tools I believe in conveying, what you want to do. And if you have a good story, if you have a story that moves people are more likely to drop their money for you. So it's interesting because the way I even learned how to, be better at storytelling was more of I applied for the Rhodes Scholarship. The Rhodes Scholarship is the foremost graduate scholarship in Oxford. And so I had a lot of I had to write a personal statement, or rather like an essay of a sort, just telling them why I should be why I should be picked. And having a good story it makes people curious, and it makes people want to it makes people curious. It makes people want to drop money. They're compassionate about, your story, because your story is a powerful one. And so, yeah, have a great story. And you could ask me questions about that. And I also could send, I could send drafts of some of the personal statements I had written, or I have written in the past, because I did write a couple. And then the second thing I will say is be yourself. So in the bid to tell a compelling story and a very great story, don't tell someone else's story. Be yourself. I remember I was writing, when I was writing for the Rhodes Scholarship. I'm not a Rhodes Scholar, by the way, but but I did apply, and I am a Rhodes finalist. And so I was writing that, living in the middle income community of Nigeria, like in Lagos or something like that. And I felt like maybe it would have been more, punchy if I said I grew up in some really, 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 really like low income town, but I didn't. I just didn't. So the point is, I had to share my experience, and it was from it's my experience that makes me. We're a bundle of experiences. We're a bundle of the things that we've experienced, and that is when you show your authentic self, where you shine the most is when you're being true to yourself. So that's the second thing I would say, is just be yourself. Also, apply for everything, apply for specific things. It's one thing, like my goal was, I wanted to be a Rhodes Scholar, and just because I'm a go-getter, I love everything that is like I if there's the best thing, I will want it. Like even if it's out of my reach, I'll be like, how can I get it? So that's just personally me. So I did apply for the Rhodes Scholarship, but I did apply for other things as well. And this is very important, because I had to write this down, because some people, they're like me, and they're very like, there's one thing I want, and that one thing is what I must get. But blessings come in different ways. And receiving a full funded scholarship with stipends and everything is a blessing, and it is the same as receiving the Rhodes Scholarship, because it's the exact same thing. And so don't put yourself in one box and say, oh, I want to be a Strasman scholar, I want to be this particular, and then I'm only going to apply for that. Because I think you're shooting yourself in the foot. And I think even if they don't want to pay for your school, someone else will. And then talk to former recipients of the scholarship. This is so important, because I feel like I'm so quick to reach out to people on LinkedIn. Like I don't really like mind whatever. Like I don't care if maybe they don't even like I don't care if maybe they're not even so like active on LinkedIn. Like I would literally reach out to somebody that probably knows them, to reach out to them, like, because it's one of the, like, it's very easy to stand on the knowledge of people that have come before. Like, and most of the times, like, these people, like the scholarship interviews, they don't really change their interview questions. They're quite similar. It's the same thing. Why should we invest in you? Why you? And so talking to people that have done it before, that have gotten the scholarships before, that have, and like you're doing now, right? You're listening to us, you're talking to us. So it's really important. And then practice for the interviews, I guess. That is like a no-brainer. And I will say that sometimes you just get a scholarship. Some people are that like lucky. I call it lucky, and they're that like blessed. They don't even have to do like interviews and all of those things. They literally just say congratulations. That's what happened to me in Cambridge, by the way. Congratulations, you have been awarded a scholarship. And I just applied. I just applied for a course, and they were like, you fit the, I guess, African Scholars Program, something. And so sometimes it's like that. Sometimes you don't do anything to get the scholarship. Sometimes you just apply. But sometimes, but even applying for school, like in Cambridge, Oxford, in Harvard, even applying for school gets you noticed already. But going the extra mile and extra step to prepare yourself for anything that might come, is also important. So on the next slide, I give like a really brief timeline on like how you could do it. If you just go to slide 3. So the first thing, I'm not a very, no, that's slide 3. The one before. Yeah. So I'm not the best planner, but I aim to be, and I am. So, and I want to be. So the first thing I will say is make a plan. Because the plan helps you kickstart anything and everything, right? So just make a plan. By this time, these are the scholarships. These are the schools I want to go to. These are my options. This is okay. Yeah, these are my options. By this time, I must have done this, right? And so like make a plan, but like make it very like actionable. So like have like goals at set times and stuff like that. And then search for the scholarships, right? Like just be aware that these scholarships exist. And then the third thing is apply. Apply before the deadline. I give a really short story. The scholarship I got in Oxford, they just sent me like a, hi, we saw that you applied to Oxford, and you fit the bill for the African Oxford scholarship, something like that. And if you're interested, would you please fill this form? And I was working at that time. And if you know consulting is really, really, really like stressful. And so I had actually forgotten. And then I had a reminder set, thankfully. And I literally reminded me, like, if it was supposed to close on the 27th, 12 a.m., like it reminded me by 11 p.m. And so I actually applied for the scholarship I'm currently on an hour before. And the reason I could also do that is because I already had personal statements that I could use for the road. Like I had past road scholarship personal statements that I could use. So it was quite easy for me to apply for it in that short amount of time. Because sometimes of course, applications take some time, but I was already used to applying for scholarships. So like, because I had practice from the roads, so it was easier for me. And then waiting. So you finish your interview, and so rather you fill the form, you get an interview, you're excited, and you do your interview, and then you're waiting. It's like so many things to it, like so many things you're thinking about. Am I going to get it? Am I not? It's very daunting, but at least have supportive people around you. That's what I would say. And lastly, on the last slide, I just tell you what's out there. And it's a very, very, very non-exhaustive list, by the way, because I was very, very keen on Oxford or Cambridge. Like I wasn't going to go to the US. But the US does have like a bunch of scholarships as well. So I will just say that the first one is the MasterCard Foundation Scholarship, and the first cohort is I'm part of the first cohort, and it's for University of Cambridge and University of Oxford students. It's like it's such a great like scholarship, right? Because it's very focused on like they want Africans living in Africa, like it's you, they want you basically. So in Cambridge, actually this year you didn't have to apply, they literally sent it to you. But in Oxford, you go through the Africa Oxford collaborations to apply. And then there's also the Weidenfeld and Hoffman Foundation scholarship. That one is a bit older than the MasterCard scholarship. And you submit your scholarship application with your grad application. And the last one is like the Commonwealth scholarship. We all know those ones. And you have to like apply through the Commonwealth Scholarships Commission. There are way more scholarships out there. My class, like 70% of the people in my class are on scholarship. So it's possible, you can do it. Getting funding is not hard. Sorry, getting funding is not impossible. And I just want to like encourage you to put yourself out there, because going to these schools, like if that's what you want, you would be very, very happy that you took that step to go, and you would be very pleased to not pay for anything while going to the school of your dreams. So lastly, I just want to say thank you for listening to me. And I would be very happy if you have any questions for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Motunrayo, for that lovely session. I'm sure everyone took away something. Yeah, so I'm just going to yield the floor to Shion to say a few things.
Thank you, Motu, and thanks, Simi. No, I was going to tell the participants if they have any questions, they can put it in the chat. I mean, Motu can still take one or two questions, and then we can defer the rest of the questions till the Q&A after we've had Fikayo, who will be taking us through the PhD application, and Destiny and Afam, who will give us the US and generally, how to write a winning application. And I would also go through the more nitty-gritty stuff of writing a great CV and personal statement. I was going to also mention that yes, I love what Motunrayo said about sometimes one of the added values of just applying for these things is that it helps you with some housekeeping. So if you're applying for a scholarship, if it forces you to get all your achievements and put it together in one place. And the only reason she was able to apply to AFOX in less than an hour or so to go is because she had materials from other scholarships to use. So sometimes you want to apply to certain things that you may not necessarily be passionate about, but just so that you have materials to use for the other things that you really are passionate or you want to get into. So thank you for that. So if there are any questions, you can please put it in the chat. Sorry, I have to also help with admitting people. So I'll just come in and out. So yeah. So Motun, did you want to say any other, or are there questions in the chat that you want to respond to?
I think everyone's just asking for my draft personal statement, which I said I may be able to share. But yeah, I could send it to Shion and he would help.
Okay, thank you. Very kind of you. All right. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, over to you.
All right, thank you, Shion, and thank you, Motunrayo, once again. So I'll be introducing our next speaker, Fikayo Akeredolu. Fikayo is currently